In Myanmar, gender inequality has historically never been acknowledged as an issue of concern, and traditionally established gender roles have rarely been discussed and debated until now. This is the first study in Myanmar which uses photography. This is the first study in Myanmar which uses photography to respond to the excess of patriarchy. To give background information on Myanmar, Myanmar is formerly known as Burma, and it was colonized by the British from 1824 until 1948. It has often been portrayed in Western media and Hollywood films as the land of exotic centuries-old pagodas, the mythical and untouched portion of Southeast Asia, or as the country shielded away from the rest of the world for past decades. Brenda Bilek wrote in Women from Burma on Their Rights that Myanmar women have not been able to benefit gender equality from women's movement across the globe because of the repressive government over the past 4 decades and the country's long period of isolation from 1962 to the early 2000s. She found that government suppression of women's rights is not the only source of repression that Myanmar women face in their daily lives. If it were, the obstacles that Myanmar women face would be so easy to overcome after the fall of military government in 2011. In fact, traditionally established gender roles and cultural stereotypes perpetuated daily by the men, husbands, brothers, fathers, and sons whom women love and live with, and by women themselves are responsible for the gender inequality that still exists in Myanmar society today. Son is master, husband is God, old Myanmar proverb. Growing up, I often came across traditional proverbs in Myanmar literature written about Myanmar women by Myanmar men. As a young girl, I was taught of traditional values, just as many other young girls before me. In my household, we will always separate our laundries into 2 bins. Everything my father wore into 1 bin, and everything me and my mom wore into the other bin, and then those 2 bins would be washed separately. And when I played with my cousin brothers, my mom would always tell me not to climb heights or stand above them. I will ask her why, and she will always give me the same answer: because you are a girl. Hence, I've never questioned my limitation or cast doubt over things that I was told I couldn't achieve just because I'm a girl. However, years after I left home, Myanmar, something inside me changed. The things that used to make sense no longer make sense. And the same things that limit me to be a good Myanmar woman makes me deeply unhappy. Suddenly, I find the use of proverbs in Myanmar literature describing how women should behave particularly disturbing. Proverbs such as "a male dog is higher in status than a woman" compelled me to research further. It inspired me to create a body of work, which is a critical commentary on the societal expectations that most Myanmar women were told growing up in Myanmar, myself included. My series, Back Home I Was Told, visualized the self-perceived notions of women's projections in a society where I was born and raised. I created a series of photographs combined with traditional teachings that most Myanmar women were told growing up. I created this body of work because I wanted to intervene in the society which teaches little girls that their purpose in life is to be a good wife. The photographs are self-portraits which depict various poses of Myanmar traditional dance. In Myanmar, any other form of dance or similar movement which allows women's body to move freely is considered inappropriate and socially unacceptable. As you can see from this news clipping, that women's participation in politics is considerably low in Myanmar. Julia Mitchell wrote in Women, the Longest Revolution, that the position of women in any given society can be taken as a mark of the progress of civilization or humanization within the society. That is also supported by Brenda Bilek, that the roles that women play in their society, which are arising out of custom and tradition, often provide the society's attitude towards women. The no-woman signs that appear on religious temples and pagodas, ever-present and unchallenged social restrictions imposed on women, religious practices that exclude women, gender-based entry requirements for universities and higher education institutions, domestic violence, and the social norms that dictate that women's place is in the home or in the kitchen, the fact that there are very few women in leadership positions across all sectors and industries, these are just some of the problems that have led to the discrimination now needing to be addressed. In Myanmar, women's bodies are regarded impure because of their bodily functions such as childbirth and menstruation, whereas the determining culture and religious narrative is that men possess spiritual superiority. This is Yangon police captain telling women to stop wearing sexy clothes if they don't want to be raped. And the slut-shaming and putting women down on the basis of the way they dress is extremely damaging and intoxicating, as they instill the idea that only shame and fear can protect women. And even if a man makes unwanted sexual advances towards them, even if it's action, she should be ashamed of it. On the other hand, men's sexuality is never questioned or controlled in Myanmar culture. Although scholars in the past and present may argue regarding women's status in Myanmar, from my personal experience, I can attest that emotionally women are often barred from expressing themselves because of our inherited patriarchal system. In this context, photography can serve as a tool to transcend these barriers by equipping women with photography as a first step. We allow them and give them a voice to express themselves. Not only can photography empower women by allowing them to tell their own stories, but it can also direct its viewers to re-articulate preconceived notions of traditional exotic identity associated with Myanmar women. In 2015, Yangon Women's Festival was held for the first time. However, only one foreign woman photographer exhibited her work along with Myanmar visual artists. That is also one of the reasons which has led me to conduct on this research. Currently, there are no universities which offer photography education in Myanmar. Women artists in Myanmar have started incorporating the medium of photography in their practice in the beginning of the 20th century. In my attempt to investigate their circumstances of women photographers in Myanmar, I have met and interviewed 3 Myanmar women photographers. Discussing and highlighting their careers will help shed a light on and answer questions such as the reasons behind the lack of women photographers in Myanmar, and the way that photography can contribute to the debate concerning the emancipation of women in Myanmar. Pyuma is known as the first female performing artist from Myanmar, and she is also one of the pioneering women artists from Myanmar. Her most well-known piece is the performance piece for 7th NIPAF Asian Performance Festival in Tokyo, where she puts a balloon in a cage, fills it up with gas until it bursts, which was a political statement about women's situation in Myanmar at the time. She taught herself Photoshop in 1999 and started incorporating photography in her practice. The influence of surrealism can be seen in most of her images as she combined reality with make-believe images. She recalled her excitement when the first decent photocopier arrived in Myanmar in early 2000, as she wanted to use it and incorporate it into her practice. However, the government quickly confiscated the machine, as they worried that people might use it to produce counterfeit money or incite propaganda against the agenda. In 2010, she produced Hope and Dream series, which was shown in festivals across the globe, but it wasn't allowed to show in Myanmar because of the political situation at the time. In fact, art installations, exhibitions, and shows were not allowed in Myanmar until the late 2012. Regarding women's roles, she stressed that in Myanmar society, very few men would allow their wives to pursue further education or a career after marriage, which made it extremely difficult for female artists to pursue their practice after marriage. When working on her series, Reflection of Dream, she was often made fun of for photographing the reflection of water puddles instead of photographing objects which were deemed beautiful for women, such as flowers or butterflies. She said, people will often make comments or question her mental health just because she refused to let gender roles and social restrictions limit her practice. Despite these cruel criticism and remarks, she continues to make work and remains as one of the pioneering female artists participating in different exhibitions and festivals across the globe. So Myanmar is the only female travel photographer from Myanmar. She took photography class in 2009, offered by Myanmar Photography Association. During the photography course, she won her first award in the landscape genre when she was still using a point-and-shoot camera. She said how winning the award has shocked fellow participants and tutors because they couldn't believe a woman with point-and-shoot camera could possibly excel in photography. She struggled being a landscape photographer as traveling alone is often viewed as unsafe and unsuitable for women in Myanmar. In the early days, when she just started her career, she had to rely heavily on her fellow male photographers. She said it did not matter whether the other person's career was more established than hers. Him being a man was enough to provide the safety that she needed to make work. Outdated customs and traditional views make it difficult for women to pursue a career in photography. On one occasion, Soe Myanmar wanted to photograph a spectacular view of a starry sky, but to get the shot that she needed, it required her to climb over a pagoda. But in Myanmar, customs and religious belief prohibit women from climbing heights, let alone religious buildings. Myanmar culture prohibits any activities which enable women's feet to be higher than male, as it can pollute the power of man. Due to this reason, she couldn't get the photograph what she wanted, whereas her fellow male photographer could photograph whatever he wanted. Although the male photographer asked Soe Myanmar to hand over her camera and offered to take the photograph for her, she refused the offer as she did not believe that she did not feel that the work would truly represent her image. There have been multiple incidents where certain photography projects have been given up due to societal and cultural restrictions imposed on her merely for being a woman. In international news and exhibitions, she's often been portrayed, Mekona is often being portrayed, an exotic female photographer from Myanmar. However, she is determined not to get labeled to a specific genre or identity. In her series, Freedom from Fear, she captured freedom of expression within a political context. In a series of photographs, a group of Myanmar millennials can be seen submerged in water, some looking straight at the camera. She opened her studio in 2009, focusing on portrait photography to fund her personal projects. She mostly worked with female customers as Mekona is committed in bringing individuality and confidence in Myanmar women that she works with. She was also an artist in residence in Arles, France, and she said the program opened up her eyes and said it was the most rewarding learning experience for her. Prior to this, she had never practiced photography in academic setting, and it is where she learned research skills, critical thinking, knowledge of contemporary documentary. It inspired her to produce Freedom from Fear series. The Freedom from Fear series was exhibited in December 2016, and it had received overwhelming positive reaction and response from media and the locals. In the exhibition, there were several pieces which featured closer photographs of nude bodies. She said she took the photographs of nude women bodies to confront the objectification of women's bodies in Myanmar. She said, and I quote, "Even though we are born pure, we are taught shame." All these photographers are different in their approaches, and it has enabled me to obtain a broader understanding of what has happened and is happening right now. It is apparent that Mekona's career has benefited in terms of critical thinking and networking from receiving training in institutions such as École Nationale Supérieure de la Photographie, whereas Myanmar women photographers without the training would struggle in such areas. Thus, it is vital to fill the gap by setting up a local community program where women can receive photography training, critique, and continuous support. This could lead to the emergence of female collectives, women-only photo festival and photo exhibitions long after the workshops had ended. Tuma Collective. This is the one and only women's photographer collective in Myanmar. Tuma translates as she in Burmese. As I mentioned previously, there are no photography institutions or education establishments in Myanmar. Photography education is mostly offered through workshops by international photographers and visiting artists. And when these workshops are offered, the selection is made based on portfolios. And in this situation, there are very little chance for Myanmar women to get into these workshops or receive learning opportunities. Tuma was formed by 7 Myanmar photographers in October 2017, and their goal is to promote women-only workshops, and they have also created women's photographer club where women meet up monthly to share their knowledge and discuss the work that they make. Their goal is to inspire and encourage women who are interested in photography and use it as a language to tell stories and engage with the world. I will show a few images from my collective members. This is called Memory Lane by Yu Mian Tan, currently showing in Myanmar Data Gallery in Yangon, Myanmar. This is I Wish You Were Here by Shui Wen Mong, which will be shown at Objective Asian Women Showcase, Photographer Showcase in Singapore. It can be observed that cultural norms and deep-rooted religious belief impact the lives of Myanmar women photographers from deepest personal levels such as safety, a sense of security, and self-worth, the professional levels such as equal opportunities and the ability to undertake any work that they set their mind to without having to seek approval or support from the man. Moreover, it indicates that no matter how outdated cultural values and perceptions may be barriers for women photographers in Myanmar, women continue to fight for their place in the world of photography. After talking with female photographers and learning about their experience within Myanmar society, it increased my urgency to develop photography education strategies for Myanmar women. To support Myanmar women photographers through workshops, I have worked with a non-profit social enterprise called Lensational. Lensational is a non-profit social enterprise which offers photography training to women in developing countries. Additionally, Lensational partners with agencies and online platforms such as Getty and Photo Concierge to merchandise the photographs to generate additional income for women. I was intrigued by what Lensational stands for and their achievements. I volunteered to come on board as Myanmar program manager and started working towards developing a free photography education program for Myanmar women. The Lensational photography training program consists of 4 steps. In the conduction of workshop, the participants are equipped with second-hand digital cameras donated to Lensational by individuals and corporations. And then the workshop is conducted by Lensational volunteer photographer, which follows a thoroughly researched and carefully developed curriculum that is adapted to specific contexts of each program. The sections cover basic camera training, basic camera techniques, emotional expression, narrative, and storytelling. Upon completing the workshop, the photos produced by participants are sold through the Lensational online platform and exhibitions, and the partners that include Getty and Photo Concierge. Of course, the approval of the photographer who produced the images. After finishing the basic training, the participants can choose to receive ongoing mentoring and support from Lensational, including advanced training and sales of their work. Lensational started its work in developing countries in South Asia, as South Asia holds the lowest percentage of women in non-agricultural wage employment, with only 20%. Lensational works with local NGOs in different developing countries, focusing on different issues such as migration, education, health, and supply chain transparency, which are all fundamental in improving the lives of women. For example, in Bangladesh, Lensational program works with women garment factory workers, as it is necessary to improve the conditions for factory workers following Rana Plaza collapse. When identifying beneficiaries for long-term photography training program in Myanmar, it leads me to the research conducted by Gender Equality Network. The research indicates that in terms of gender inequality and women empowerment in Myanmar, the biggest gap relates to employment and economic disparities between men and women. In rural areas, women are forced to take on hard labor jobs, which are deemed unsuitable, according to Myanmar culture. Myanmar culture and Myanmar sayings indicate that women are weak and defenseless. However, the traditional beliefs only seem to apply when they are employed to control women's freedom of movement or when it is beneficial to the patriarchal society. My encounter with women from rural areas demonstrate this very well. This is Do Shui Zin. When I photographed her, she was 4 months pregnant. When I first noticed her, she was carrying 2 heavy containers filled with water across her shoulder. I've learned that she makes little money to collect water from village well to the houses situated across the village. She said, "I know it is not good for the baby, but I can't stop working." She is one of the many women in Myanmar who had to take on hard labor jobs, as there are no alternative career opportunities for them. Do Shui Zin never finished secondary school, as she had to stay home and help her mother with house chores, while her 3 brothers walked to school, which was 2 hours away from her village. Stories like Dutch Reason spread across the country, and they convey the narrative that women from different social classes enjoy different freedom in Myanmar society, and gender disparities are more marked in rural areas. In these situations, photography training can generate additional income for women. Additionally, it can give the voice to women from Myanmar from different social classes who have not been represented in Myanmar literature throughout the history. By starting the dialogue and giving them tools to represent themselves, we can start breaking the main barriers in gender inequality in Myanmar. For this reason, I aim to develop a photography training program focusing on women from rural areas. The pilot photography training program was developed to create photography education opportunities for young Myanmar women, and it was conducted in September 2017 in Yangon, Myanmar. The program was organized in collaboration with local NGO First Project and local gallery Wired on 39. The workshop was advertised on Myanmar Youth Opportunities website, and within the first 24 hours, we received over 120 applications. 12 women who applied for the workshop were selected to participate. The participants were keen to receive photography education and interested in developing their personal stories, which included photographing issues that they face in Myanmar as women. I aim to provide continuous support, including access to digital cameras to the participants, and eager to see how their personal projects develop. My commitment to these women is to facilitate a safe learning environment where these women can create and practice photographic actions towards change. Although Myanmar has opened its doors to the wider world, the representations and the stories of Myanmar women remain untold. The world is now able to see the stories of Myanmar in the form of images, which previously had not been seen. However, women of Myanmar remain unexplored. The photographic technology is not readily accessible in many parts of Myanmar, and hence, the reality from the perspective of these women is rarely seen or given voice. As a Myanmar woman and photographer myself, what becomes most important to me are the stories that remain untold, which takes the courage and resilience of the women whose voices are rarely, if ever, heard. For women without a voice or even a place in society, photography could be their voice. My hope is that photography can instill an idea in Myanmar women. No man can take their place. Thank you very much.